for the last 17 years, I have been getting up between 4:45 and 5 o'clock every morning. Sometimes it's 4:30 in the morning, depending on my schedule. And I will go to the gym and work out. And that usually happens 6 days a week. And there is no deviation or break from it. If I'm on vacation, I will find a gym. I will go for a run. I will do, my thing is I love to lift weights. For whatever reason, moving heavy things really is a stress reliever for me.
Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroiani, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Mastroiani. Today I have with me Eric Tomei. Eric is a physical therapist who found real estate investing in 2007. Over the course of the years, he flipped over 125 properties. He's also focusing on capital raising, asset management, and he does some really cool things that I enjoy where he's actually bringing potential investors into a room, doing some large events where he's helping to work with capital, with people who are looking to invest in his property. So really excited about getting into this conversation. Eric and I actually met on a networking event a few weeks back, and I just thought it would be a perfect fit to bring him on today. So Eric, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, Bob, thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you can, maybe take us down the path, tell a little bit about your story and how you started in real estate investing and where it's brought you to today.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Actually, my path, believe it or not, started in 2006, and it occurred because of a tragic event in my life. Actually, my dad in 2006, the beginning of 2006, actually passed away from a heart attack. Did not have any symptoms, warnings, etc. So it was a huge shock. And at that time I was I was 29 years old. So I am dating myself for all of our viewers and listeners. But the point of that was it really took me, really got me focused and more serious on what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Being a physical therapist at that point was good. But, I always wanted more, and I always wanted to be doing more, and real estate really fit and scratched that competitive itch I have to not only make more money, but, to close deals and be successful in real estate. So really that kind of seminal event of losing my dad so suddenly really spurred me onto a real estate career. So I started flipping houses in 2007. And since then, I've flipped over 125 single family houses here in the Metro Detroit area. I've either managed the contractors or I've actually just contributed money to the deal as well. I've done all facets of asset management, managing contractors. I've done everything from A to Z with flipping a house. So I currently have going on right now because you just can't ever take the flipper out of the real estate person. So, and in addition, I have other companies as well. I have a company that has 12 units. Half of them are Airbnb, half of them are long-term rentals. I do have, like I said, I'm flipping 3 houses in another company. And of course, I have Top Point Investments with my 2 partners, Andy Hubbs and Zaid Kassab. And we are actively capital raising for deals not only here in Michigan, but all over the United States. And that's been a real interesting and fun journey so far to obviously connect with other like-minded real estate people.
Well, that's an interesting story. And, as I'd mentioned, you and I had a conversation a few weeks back and some similarities in our life story. And I can get into a couple of those as we move further along down the line. But one of the things that I found very interesting in our conversation was that you had mentioned to me that you have a strong comfort level with, sort of capital raising on a group level, right? Bringing a certain amount of people into a room and either standing on a stage or standing in front of the room and presenting how opportunities work and how investing in your opportunities work. And I think oftentimes when we speak with real estate investors, when we speak with people who are newer to real estate investing, one of the big challenges that often becomes a brick wall for many people is capital raising, is the
Sure.
idea of utilizing other people's money, bringing other investors into the deal who are capital partners. So tell me a little bit about that comfort level, and maybe you could talk just a little bit about what those events look like.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to, Bob. First of all, I mean, in terms of capital raising, right, you have to be comfortable speaking with people. Some of these people are strangers, at least at first, until they become family. And then some of them you've known for forever, right? So it doesn't really matter if you're asking a stranger for money or if you're asking, a family or a friend, family member or friend for money. Each of them equally poses their own challenges. So the important thing is you have to be confident in building that trust in that relationship first before that money conversation ever happens. But honestly, public speaking to me, I've always loved it. And I know this is going to sound really bizarre to say, but I love it because when I'm up there speaking in front of a group of people, whether it be small or large, I know that nobody else has the stage and everybody else has to listen. And you can tune out and you can do whatever, but I just love it because I feel like for a couple minutes, I have the stage. And honestly, it's just, I feel very at ease and very relaxed up there. I do a lot of listening in my job and outside of my job, right? And being a great listener is really the key, in my opinion, to success. But, it's also fun to take the stage and, to talk about and educate people, more importantly, on multifamily real estate and real estate in general, because people are coming to you as the trusted source of information. So, I certainly don't take that lightly. And I want to make sure that I provide as much education as possible to any of our prospective investors. With regards to the meetups, we've actually, our 8th meetup will actually be tomorrow night here locally in Metro Detroit. And we started off, believe it or not, with just taking probably about 8 to 12 people out to dinner. It was within our networks. One of my partners, Andy Hubbs, is a lawyer. And so, we were taking some of his attorney friends out. And we just kind of canvassed our networks, to be perfectly honest. It was really a no pressure thing. It was a just get to know you kind of deal and build up the relationship, and instill confidence and trust in us. Because again, people, in my opinion, are not going to give you any kind of money or monetary reward if they don't know, like, and trust you. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's never more true, especially when you're dealing with people's money. You have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that money and that trust that you've earned is being taken care of at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting to hear you say that, because it really is true that this is a relationship business.
It is.
When we're talking about the type of investment and the type of financial commitment that people are making to invest in your opportunities, I had a phone call with someone earlier today in the real estate industry who I really trust. And we just spoke specifically about this. And it's, people are trusting you and trusting your knowledge of the industry, your knowledge of the business. And then once that opportunity closes, then they're trusting that you're going to perform, right? And
correct. Yes, you have to deliver the results. And also, Bob, you mentioned a lot of important things that they're trusting you with, but also trusting the people who are running the deal. If you are not running the deal yourself, what kind of relationship do you have with the people who are in charge of the deal? And how will you be involved to make sure that our money is protected? And the deal is actually carrying out the business plan that they had envisioned at the start. So there's definitely a lot of components to it. It's not a good or a bad thing, certainly, but it's just a lot of components that you have to keep your eye on to make sure that your investors feel safe and secure in their investment.
So you invest mostly in the Metro Detroit area. Have you ventured out of your area, or are you staying, pretty much in your backyard?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of properties in the Metro Detroit area, but I do have a limited partner position in a 108 unit deal in Kansas City, and
Oh,
my
okay.
partners also have a limited partner positions in a apartment building in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as Indianapolis, Baltimore, Maryland, and the greater Chicago area. So we are not necessarily beholden to Michigan or the Metro Detroit area. We look for opportunities all over the United States. We certainly do like the Midwest,
Mhm.
um, and we do like the Carolinas, Florida, Texas, Georgia. I mean, everybody seems to like those areas as well, which is fine. But we really look for, one, is the team good?
Mm.
Two, is the deal good? If the team's not good, you don't have to go look at the deal, in my opinion. If the team's good and then the deal isn't good, okay, then maybe there's a discussion. But if the team is good and the deal is good, then you move on to the next step. So we really do our best to not only vet the deal, but vet the team as well.
Well, it's such a wise way to approach your investments, and similar to your investors are trusting you, but you obviously want to have that same kind of relationship with others. So for your properties that are in locations in other parts of the country, are
Yeah.
those opportunities that other investors have brought to you? Is that
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. Other investors have brought those opportunities to me, and just with some of the real estate groups that I belong to, I do get deals brought to me fairly often.
Mhm.
Probably about 3 or 4 per week. And you look at the numbers and you look at the deal and you look at the percentage of what's going on in the deal in terms of how the deal is structured, whether that be a GP/LP or a JV deal in terms specifically relating to multifamily. And then you make a decision, on, hey, is this viable? Can we do this? Recently we turned down a JV opportunity because we were not coming necessarily in with the money. We were going to raise for it. But then it got a little complicated in terms of, okay, well, how are we going to raise for it and still be part of the deal when it's not our money? And
Mhm.
that's okay. The deal was fantastic. It truly was. And the people who are running the deal were great too. But it just didn't necessarily work for us at that time. So,
Right.
and that happens sometimes in real estate investing too. It might be a great deal. It might be great people, but you might not have the capital or be able to raise the capital according to the structure of their deal.
Okay. So is there anything specific that you're looking for now? Any specific types of properties?
Yeah, I mean, our bread and butter is certainly multifamily real estate. We're currently raising for a 62 unit in Fort Worth, Texas right now.
Oh, nice.
So that's exciting. Certainly, there's other asset classes, obviously, that are good, just like multifamily, self-storage, RV campgrounds. They're all very good, but I think if you really focus on too many things at once, I don't think you're going to really get anything done. Now, if a golden opportunity came my way and it was awesome, I'd have to look at it, of course. But really, our bread and butter is multifamily, and we're just kind of that's our focus right now.
Okay, great. Well, I want
Mhm.
to transition over a little bit. Before I do, though, so being a physical therapist working in the healthcare industry, I've had a couple of conversations with people in the healthcare industry, and I feel like there's a component of education that I think could really help the healthcare industry. I think many people in the healthcare industry, uh, you know, especially doctors or physicians assistants, there are several high paid positions in healthcare industry, and I just wonder, is there a miss from an investment standpoint of knowing and understanding how residual income, how passive passive income every month coming in could help set up retirement versus I find in some of my conversations with doctors, they're focusing specifically on building the medical business and not
Sure.
necessarily their own version of retirement or whatever it is. Do you see that in your line of business? Or
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Bob. I do not get compensated like doctors or anything, or higher level medical people, trust me. But I will say that I've had conversations with people in healthcare, specifically doctors, about educating in multifamily real estate investing. So yes, absolutely. And some of our groups that we focus on in our in-person meetups specifically focus on doctors and healthcare related professionals, because they need to be educated, regardless if you decide to do a deal with us or not. That's fine. But you need to be educated on that there's other stuff out there that's making your money work harder so you don't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
Because people in healthcare, they work hard.
Yes.
Trust me.
Yes.
And it's all over the United States because we're serving people. That is our job. Our job is to serve others.
Yeah, there are a few lines of business where I feel like that education could really make a big difference. And healthcare is one of them, because I know that it's people that are working really hard, and at some point they deserve the ability to have a good retirement and,
Sure.
sort of, turn it down a little bit, dial it down a little bit. So that's one of the industry. It just has been an eye-opening conversation for me over the last year or so. A few people that I've had in that line of business. So
yeah, and you know what? It's interesting too, Bob, that we're talking about this, because some healthcare professionals don't want to be educated on it, which is completely fine. I mean, that is their choice, and not good or bad. But it's interesting how some are very open-minded to the conversation and some are very closed-minded to the conversation and not really willing to listen to alternative opportunities.
yeah.
So, but that's human nature. I mean,
Right.
that's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal either way. But if you would like to be educated, yeah, I'll definitely sit down and talk with you. I could talk about real estate all day long.
I like it. So yeah, I want to transition over. This is the Healthy Investor Podcast, and we like to talk about healthy habits and routines. And I wanted to circle back a little bit. You had mentioned that your father passed away in 2006 of heart failure, and it was an eye-opening experience for you as far as your moment to decide to start looking into some other opportunities. And we had spoken about this before, and part of my story is that my father passed away in 2003. Very similar story. He was young. He was in his early 50s. He was only 54 years old. He had a heart attack and passed away not long after. And for my story, I went to get life insurance at one point and was sort of slapped with the idea that you had a parent who died under 55 years old with heart failure.
Same thing, Bob.
Right.
Same thing.
And for me, that was the eye-opening of getting my health in place. Right. So for me, that was, I have to do something healthier. So that's part of what brought me to doing this and having these kind of conversations. So
sure.
For you, what are your healthy habits and routines? What does that look like for you in your regular life?
Yeah. So, Bob, I was always a athlete, and I loved playing sports well before, growing up, well before my dad passed away from a heart attack. And yeah, he was 57. He was a month shy of his 58th birthday. So very similar story to you. But when he passed away, it was mid 2006, and I kicked it into high gear. I had always exercised, but I had the consistency. People use the word discipline, but it's really the consistency of doing something every day. So for the last 17 years, I have been getting up between 4:45 and 5 o'clock every morning. Sometimes it's 4:30 in the morning, depending on my schedule. And I will go to the gym and work out. And that usually happens 6 days a week. And there is no deviation or break from it. If I'm on vacation, I will find a gym. I will go for a run. My thing is, I love to lift weights. For whatever reason, moving heavy things really is a stress reliever for me. Not for everybody. Certainly I do cardio, obviously, to exercise the heart. But that is a routine that I have been so consistent with that it's just part of my life. In terms of eating, believe it or not, I am not a sweets guy. And I know a lot of people out there love their sweets. I'm not a fried food guy. I don't personally like the way it tastes.
Hmm.
So I haven't drank pop in 30 years because, again, I just don't like the way that it tastes. So for me, eating healthy is probably a little bit easier. We all have our vices. I have mine too.
Right.
But it is just being as consistent as possible every day. So it's not such a struggle and not such a chore for you to be like, oh, okay, I got to eat grilled chicken and rice and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that gets boring. We're humans and that gets boring, right? So
Yeah.
it is just really establishing routines and allowing yourself the flexibility, to pivot off of those routines every so often. Now, don't pivot off of the routine for 2 straight months, but a couple days, whatever it is, you have to allow yourself the latitude to be a human first. So I say it's just consistency with developing routines.
So I love the idea of consistency. And so for your morning routine, I mean, that's a pretty early wake up call, right? 4:30, 4:45,
It
even 5
is.
o'clock. Is that a necessity based on just how the rest of your life goes and time frame to get to work?
It absolutely is, Bob. Actually, I only work 10 minutes away from my house.
Okay.
But the thing is that, I usually start at 7:45, something like that. But the problem is I love doing it. I love working out when nobody in my house needs anything.
Okay.
So it's necessity because as soon as I'm done, I'm usually going to coach a sport. I'm very active coaching my kids. Actually, to tell you the truth, this week is the first time in 18 months where I'm not coaching a team at all.
Oh,
So it's a little weird this week because it almost feels like I'm on like some semi-retired vacation, but there's so many activities after school, which, I mean, you have a 12-year-old daughter who's in activities as well. So things always come up as soon as you walk in the door. So I want to make sure that I have my exercise and my routine already done. So I don't have to worry about doing it or squeezing it in at 8:30 at night. Because to me, that just creates stress for me personally. So I'd rather just have it done well ahead of time.
Yeah. So today, oddly enough, as we're speaking about this, today's one of those very odd days for me that I'm probably going to the gym this evening. And
it happens.
And I'm thrown off.
Yeah,
I'm
you do get thrown
by
off because your body gets used to it, right?
Yeah. And it's part of a few different things. I had some things that I had to take care of early in the morning, and it was just more of a scheduling. I had a meeting that was an hour earlier than I normally start. So, and I do the drop off in the morning. So it was just a combination of things. And it's interesting because I've had people ask the question before, like, how do you go from, I was a perennial late sleeper. I was the person who stayed up late at night and slept late in the morning. And I totally changed that to, I'm not up as early as you, but my alarm goes off at 5:45, which is not.
Well, that's not late.
No, that's definitely not late. Pretty early. Yeah.
So.
And
I mean, every so often, Bob, I mean, you know what? I have a cheat day. For instance, don't ask me why my alarm did not go off on my phone. It was probably human error on Monday. And I did not get up for a workout on Monday because I slept through my alarm, or I didn't set my alarm. I mean, I will admit that sometimes not the greatest with technology, even though they call it a smartphone. So So life happens sometimes. You have to allow yourself, I think, the latitude to be okay with that.
So what do you think, aside from the benefits related to becoming stronger and healthier, what do you think are some of the advantages on a professional level and on a business level to the early wake up, the early workout, that consistent routine?
I am more mentally sharp if I work out in the morning during the day than not. And that is just something I've noticed in me. I'm in usually a better mood if I'm working out in the morning. I always feel like that there's something missing if I'm not working out. There's something missing that I haven't done. So for me, I really do think it's a brain chemistry thing, that working out really sets my mind right so that I can be at my absolute best for my patients, my real estate investors, etc.
I like that answer. I often say that even getting my mind right in the morning makes such a huge difference on my day. Just, doing the things that I do
100%.
to try and prepare mentally for my day, which often includes some meditation and some quiet time and those sort of
Sure.
things. And I love that answer, that you show up better for your family, for your patients, for your business, by putting that extra hour in. So I really love that answer, because it's often a personal thing, right? It's often like, I'm making myself healthier, but it's so true that, you can show up better for the people that you care about
Right.
when you're at your best. So I like that.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, you summarized it perfectly. I need to be at my best for everybody else during the day, and that's how I can get myself to be my absolute best.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So I want to transition over to the final segment where I ask the same 3 questions of
Sure.
every guest. For you, Eric, what is your definition of success?
Yeah, so I've been asked this before, and I feel like I give a different answer every single time.
That's
But I will
good.
say, yeah, I guess so, right? So I would say my definition of success is being happy on your terms, creating your life in a way that makes you look in the mirror every morning and want to get up and want to be the happiest that you can be, because you've set your life on your own terms. It does not mean that you have $50 million in your bank account. It would be nice. I'm sure we all would love that, but that's not necessarily what the definition of success is to me. Success is happiness, and happiness occurs with progress in achieving your life's goals.
So one of my favorite things about that question, and I guess this sort of also speaks to the demographic of people that I speak with, because I speak with entrepreneurs and investors, is that no one has ever said a specific dollar amount. No one has ever said, a specific number of units or a metric like that. And I love your quote, and I wrote it down here: being happy on your terms. And I love that, because it resonates with me that, first of all, happiness is so important. And second of all, your terms and my terms and anyone else's terms do not have to be the same in order to define your success, my success, and their success.
Right. It's an internal feeling that you have. What makes you happy? What lights your fire every day? And it might be the same for us, or it might be different, and that's okay, right? But it just has to be on your terms.
I like that.
Yeah.
So question number 2, for someone who is new to investing, or even learning to focus on their goals and their path to success, do you have a good book recommendation?
I mean, the number one book recommendation that I'm sure everybody's read is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That to me is certainly like a mindset book that really kind of stirs, the thought processes of, hey, there are other things out there, right? I am drawing a blank though, Bob, at the book that I had thought of. It's like in my head. Oh.
Well, we could circle back if you think of it again, or if you'd like to give context.
I will. I mean, I have the cover in my mind and the whole thing, and I just cannot remember what it's called. Oh, okay.
We'll circle back.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I like it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is an excellent book. It is. I actually, a very close family friend of mine just graduated college last week, and a few weeks ago, I sent a Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the mail, and I was like, read this book. If you're doing nothing else this summer before you start your new job in the spring, in the fall, read this book. You will learn a lot.
It's funny, Bob, that just sparked a thought in my head, that you said that you gave it to somebody who recently graduated from college. While I was in graduate school, my dad got that book for me for Christmas one year.
Oh, wow.
And it was right in the middle of physical therapy school. I remember I had about 1.5 years to go. And, that's kind of probably what started me on my thought process. So you probably just changed somebody's life, because that book changed mine.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get on to the final question, want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story. How can we support you, and how can people reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's always an honor to be on a podcast, especially this and I know we have so many things in common. So this was such an easy and fun conversation to have. Actually, if you'd like to contact me, you can reach me on my website. It's toppointinvestments.com. Or you can simply email me, my first and last name, erictomei@gmail.com. I can be reached on Facebook Messenger, cell phone, text. I mean, I'm pretty much an open book here.
That's great. We met on a virtual meetup and
yes,
connected immediately. You were easy to find on all the socials. I had no problem.
I am not hiding.
Well, excellent. So the final question, if you could think back with me to a young Eric around the ages of 10 to 12 years old, knowing what you've learned so far in your journey, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to that young Eric or any preteen child to help guide them towards success?
Number 1, be authentic. I don't care who you are, be you. Be the best version of you that you can be. You know, everybody feels like they have to fit into a box or a mold or this or that. Don't. It's not going to work. It never does. And I can honestly tell you that is being a little older. That's one thing that I could tell younger people: be just the best version of yourself. Number 2, if you're going to do something, do it with 100% effort. I don't know if there's any possible way you can give more than 100% in any task, but if you're going to chase something, go after it and go after it hard. And if you fail, that's okay. Fail forward, and then you'll learn the next time. But don't ever be restricted by fear. It is what I would say. If you have something you want to go after it and go after it hard. And number 3, appreciate the journey. Very, very hard when you are young to even understand or conceptualize that. But understand that everything you're going through when you're younger is for a reason. You might not understand that reason at the time, but you look back on it and understand it in perspective. So those would be probably the 3 things I would tell my younger self, or anybody else, who is young and a young adult.
So yeah, I love what you touched on there. There are 2 that I specifically wanted to talk about, and being yourself. My wife and I talk about this from time to time, and I mentioned this before we started. I have a 12-year-old daughter. She's in 6th grade, and we know a lot of the children and the families in her school. Of course, we're very involved in the school community, and there are some children that are just trying to figure out who they are, and then some who sort of know who they are. And it's I always sort of stop myself, and sometimes you just want to grab a couple kids and be like, listen, don't just try to be like them, just be you. And that's such a great piece of advice. I appreciate that you and mentioned that one. And then your 3rd one, I paused on it for a second.
I don't know, maybe Bob, we're getting old.
I went so deep on that one that I forgot the 3rd one.
The 3rd one was, I believe the 3rd one, what I said was, if you're going to go after something, go after with 100% effort.
Oh, yes. Yes. The tentativeness and just going after it and just following up on exactly what you say you're going to do. I love that concept, especially
you got to persevere in life too. I think that's another thing I would advise younger people. Like, look, I know that we're in an instant society where you get information at your fingertips and you're not used to being patient for a whole lot of things, but you know what? Perseverance goes a long way.
Yeah.
And the people who don't ever give up are usually the people that are the ones that are going to be successful in the end.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun. We laughed a little bit. We forgot half of the stuff we were going to say. But that makes it authentic. And that was one of your other things, right? Be your authentic self. So thanks so much for coming on, Eric Tomei. Make sure you check him out. And if you're got value out of this, please go and give us a like and go out there and make it a great day. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.